Here's your HFY story. The most dangerous substance in the cosmos runs through human veins. The galaxy had known terror before. Stars had gone nova in unnatural synchrony, empires had burned, and the black ships of the Ziran scourge had once eclipsed entire suns. But nothing had prepared them for this. It began on the medical decks of the Ishar Republic's flagship, Radiance Eternal, where biologists in hazard suits stood frozen over a simple glass vial. Inside swirled a dark red liquid, glinting faintly under sterile light. Not plasma, not nanites, not any known bioengineered weapon. It was human blood. They had brought it aboard out of morbid curiosity after the skirmish at Vath Prime, where a single Terran rescue team had fought off an armored division of Vern war beasts, barehanded. 3 humans had been captured alive for questioning. Only one survived long enough for a blood draw. Dr. Keshrin, a stoic insectoid scientist with 3 centuries of fieldwork, had been the first to notice the anomaly. "It's alive," she whispered, scanning the results. "Blood is always alive," her assistant replied. "No, not like this." Human hemoglobin bonded with oxygen in ways no known protein could match, efficient beyond theoretical limits. Like it was forged for extremes, their immune cells didn't just defend, they hunted. The antibodies reconfigured themselves in real time, adapting mid-battle against invaders. But the real horror wasn't in the cells, it was in the chemistry. In humans, adrenaline, a mundane molecule elsewhere, was a catalyst for transformations so violent they looked impossible. Heart rate spikes, muscle fiber reinforcement, pain suppression, oxygen efficiency doubling in seconds. It turned frail bipeds into predators that ignored wounds, fatigue, and reason. No other species in the galaxy could choose to become a death world apex predator at will. Keshrin's voice shook as she reported to the council. "We have found a Class Z bioweapon. The most dangerous substance in the cosmos runs through human veins. They carry it everywhere, all the time." When the recordings of human combat leaked, wars paused. The footage showed Terrans fighting in vacuum with torn suits, dragging comrades through acid storms, screaming with laughter while outnumbered 10 to 1. Not berserkers, not mindless beasts, but tacticians who could think faster in the heat of battle because of that red liquid fueling them. The Ziran Scourge's warlords demanded a strategy meeting. The result was unanimous. Do not engage humans directly, ever. But it was too late. The humans had learned they were feared, and that knowledge mixed with the same blood that made them unstoppable. Admiral Yalshar of the Vern Empire summed it up in a single trembling statement. "They do not need weapons, they are weapons, and they are already here." If you want, I can expand this into a longer, multi-chapter HFY epic where the galaxy scrambles to contain humans, but ends up needing them in a war they can't win alone. Would you like me to make that next? Alright, here's the next chapter continuing from where we left off. Chapter 2, Quarantine Protocol. The Ishar Republic did the only thing that made sense. They locked the humans away. The 3 Terran survivors were transferred to Fortress Medicae, a deep-orbit research station, built into a hollowed asteroid, surrounded by automated turrets and layers of containment fields. No living being had ever escaped from it. Or so they thought. Dr. Keshrin's orders were clear: study the humans, identify weaknesses, and find a way to neutralize the biological threat. She obeyed, at first, but days into the research, the situation began to erode her sense of certainty. The youngest human, a female identified as Lieutenant Mara Cade, spoke to her through the containment barrier. "You're wasting your time, Doc," she said one day, after another failed attempt to denature her blood. "Why do you say that?" Keshrin asked. "Because you're thinking like this is some accidental evolutionary fluke. It's not. We're built for this." Keshrin dismissed it as bravado, until the security feed from Containment Cell 3 showed the impossible. The oldest human, Corporal Darnell Rios, had been gravely injured during capture. Every other species Keshrin knew would have gone into metabolic shutdown. Instead, Rios' heartbeat increased. His wounds began knitting together in hours, not days. His body diverted resources, regenerated tissue, fought infection without a single injection. When Keshrin ran a scan, she found his red blood cells had changed shape, literally altered to slip through damaged vessels and deliver oxygen directly to starving tissue. Adaptive biology at a speed that broke every known medical model. But the real problem wasn't in the cells, it was in the behavior. Mara Cade had been studying them, asking about the guard rotation, watching the door seals, timing the meal deliveries. "You're not going to break out," Keshrin said during one late-night inspection. "I don't need to," Mara replied calmly. "You're going to open the door for me." The next morning, Fortress Medici was on full alert. A Verne raiding fleet had entered the system, warships with enough firepower to level the station in minutes. The automated defenses could hold for a while, but not long enough for reinforcements. Keshrin stood in the command deck, trembling. The station's meager garrison couldn't win. The Verne weren't here for conquest, they were here for the humans. Behind her, Mara's voice came over the intercom from her cell. "Let us out, Doc. You know we can stop them." Keshrin's 3 hearts pounded. Every protocol, every instinct screamed not to unleash what she had just spent weeks containing. But outside, the Verne ships began powering their spinal cannons. And she realized with a cold shiver. The most dangerous substance in the cosmos wasn't just human blood, it was the will inside those who carried it. If you want, I can make Chapter 3 the moment when Keshrin finally opens that cell door, and the humans show the galaxy why their blood is feared. This is where the story turns into a high-intensity battle scene. Here's Chapter 3, where the cells open, and the galaxy learns the truth. Chapter 3, the door opens. The alarms screamed through Fortress Medici as the Verne fleet's first salvo hammered the station's shields. The impacts rattled the deck, knocking dust from the air vents. On the command deck, officers shouted over one another, power routing, damage reports, weapons calibration, but Keshrin stood motionless, staring at the containment status display. 3 red icons, 3 humans, 3 ticking warheads in flesh and bone. "Doctor, the shields are at 63%, an ensign cried. "We need to evacuate." "We can't," Keshrin said. "If they capture the humans, the Verne will turn them into weapons." "What do you call them now?" the ensign whispered. The next Verne volley collapsed the shields to half strength. Hull breaches reported on decks 2 and 6. The fortress was minutes from being scrap metal. Keshrin closed her eyes. "We don't survive this without them." She entered her override code. The containment cells hissed as atmospheric equalizers engaged. The first to step out was Mara Cade. Even after weeks of captivity, her posture was sharp, every step deliberate. Her eyes scanned the deck like a predator assessing terrain. Corporal Rios followed, rolling his shoulders like a man loosening a bowstring. His bandages were gone, the wounds had vanished. The third human, Sergeant Imani Hale, walked in silence, but her hands flexed, knuckles whitening, as if her body was already mapping out the fight. "You're free," Keshrin said, her voice trembling. "The Verne are boarding in less than 4 minutes." "Then you'd better point us toward the problem," Mara replied. The problem. The first breach came through Cargo Bay 2, a blast door torn in half by plasma cutters. The Verne poured in, a dozen armored brutes wielding particle lances. What they saw was not a defense squad, not heavy mechs, just 3 unarmored humans standing in the open. The Verne laughed until the humans moved. Mara crossed the bay in less than a second, sliding under a plasma bolt and driving her elbow into a Verne's knee joint. Bone shattered like glass. She ripped the lance from his hands and used it as a spear, impaling the next target before his weapon cleared the holster. Rios hit the line like a meteor, his roar shaking the bulkheads. Every strike was a killing blow, throats crushed, helmets split, bodies thrown like ragdolls. A Verne tried to stab him. He caught the blade in his bare hand and snapped it in half. Imani didn't bother with finesse, she went for speed. Her fists blurred, each strike precise and efficient, dropping enemies faster than the rest could react. Her blood was pumping so hard that her skin flushed crimson, her muscles swelling mid-fight. By the time the next wave arrived, the first squad lay in pieces. Mara turned to Keshrin, panting but grinning. "You see, Doc, you keep calling it a weapon, we call it Tuesday." And for the first time, Keshrin understood the real danger. Humans didn't just survive because of what was in their veins. They enjoyed the fight. "If you want, I can make Chapter 4 the point where the humans take the battle off the station, boarding a Verne warship and showing what happens when the galaxy's most dangerous blood is spilled in the enemy's own corridors. Here's Chapter 4, where the humans stop playing defense and take the fight to the Verne. Chapter 4, Into the Wolf's Mouth. The Verne kept coming. Wave after wave slammed against Fortress Medicai's battered bulkheads. But after 15 minutes, their boarding parties were dying faster than they could breach. On the command deck, Keshrin watched the tactical holo. The Verne fleet still orbited above, dozens of heavy warships, untouched. We can't win like this, she thought. They'll wear us down eventually. That was when Mara Cade leaned over the display, her finger tapping the largest enemy signature. That one, flagship, kill it, and the rest scatter. Keshrin shook her head. You don't have the ships, you don't have the... We are the ships, Rios growled, cracking his neck. Imani grinned. Boarding run, their decks, our rules. The plan. Keshrin stared at them. How would you even get there? Rios pointed to the captured Verne shuttle docked in Bay 2. They brought us the ride. It was madness. No shields, no support craft, no guarantee the enemy wouldn't vaporize them on approach. But the humans didn't seem to factor those odds into their thinking. Keshrin gave the only answer she could. If you survive, don't come back empty-handed. The ride. The shuttle blasted from the fortress under heavy fire. Without shields, the humans relied on raw piloting insanity, Imani yanking the controls into rolls so violent that G-forces should have blacked them out. Somehow, adrenaline kept them conscious. Hull plates melted under grazing beams, an enemy fighter screamed past, and Mara leaned out the side hatch with a stolen particle rifle, taking it down with 2 impossible shots. They hit the flagship's hangar hard, no gentle landing. Just a smoking skid across the deck. The flagship fight. Verne warriors were already waiting, lined up in perfect formation. The humans didn't stop moving. Mara sprinted straight into their ranks, firing on the run, her shots precise enough to punch through visors. She switched to close combat without hesitation, driving a lance through 2 enemies in a single thrust. Rios was a storm. He grabbed a Verne by the chest plate and threw him into 3 others. Using the distraction to tear a heavy autocannon from its mount, the weapon roared, cutting a bloody corridor through the formation. Imani vaulted over a barricade, landing inside their command squad. She didn't kill the officer immediately. She broke his arm, tore the sidearm from his belt, and used him as a human shield until the others fell. Then she snapped his neck without a word. By the time they reached the command bridge, the crew had abandoned posts. The Verne captain, a hulking brute with ceremonial armor, stood alone. You think 3 animals can take my ship? He snarled. Mara didn't even answer. She just shot him in the knee and let him bleed out on the deck while Rios set the ship's reactor to overload. They left in the same stolen shuttle, the flagship erupting into a miniature sun behind them. From Fortress Medicai, Keshrin watched the enemy fleet scatter like startled prey. The humans had done in 30 minutes what the Republic Navy had failed to do in years. When the shuttle docked, Mara stepped out first, her skin still flushed from the fight, eyes bright. Told you, Doc, what runs in our veins isn't just blood. Keshrin swallowed. Then what is it? Here's Chapter 5, When Fear Turns into Desperate Recruitment. Chapter 5, The Bidding War. The destruction of the Verne flagship spread through the galaxy in less than a cycle. No one knew how 3 unarmored prisoners had infiltrated, crippled, and destroyed one of the most fortified ships in known space, until someone leaked the footage. Every second of the humans' rampage through the Verne decks was now playing on loop in military briefings, news feeds, and black market taverns. It wasn't just their lethality, it was the expression they wore while doing it. That feral joy. From containment to commodity. In the council chamber of the Ishar Republic, the discussion was no longer how to contain humans. It was who gets to keep them. If 3 could do this, Admiral Valor hissed, claws drumming on the table. Imagine an entire battalion under our flag. They're unstable, countered Minister Rekwaz. We've all seen what they become when the adrenaline floods their systems. They're one step from turning on their own. Then point them at the right targets and keep them fed. Valor shot back. The debate was pointless. Other powers were already moving. The first offers. The Xiran Scourge, those same nightmare marauders who once terrified half the galaxy, sent an encrypted transmission to Fortress Medicae, a promise of freedom, wealth, and a warship for each human, if they pledged themselves to Xiran command. The Vern Empire, humiliated but pragmatic, offered amnesty, land, and citizenship in exchange for fighting for them instead of against them. Even smaller powers, pirate clans, and mercenary guilds were sending recruiters, each offer more extravagant than the last, from entire planets gifted in trust, to command over alien fleets. The human response. Keshrin found Mara, Rios, and Imani in the fortress mess hall, eating like they hadn't seen food in weeks. "They're fighting over you," Keshrin said, dropping a datapad stacked with offers. "The highest bidder will own you, it seems." Mara didn't even look up. "We're not for sale." Rios grinned through a mouthful of food. "Doesn't mean we can't make 'em think we are." Imani leaned back in her chair. "Let them bid. We'll choose who deserves us." Keshrin narrowed her eyes. "And what happens if no one does?" Mara finally met her gaze, her expression deadly calm. "Then the galaxy learns what happens when we're on our own side." That night, Keshrin began to understand that the humans weren't just the most dangerous fighters in the galaxy. They were the most dangerous negotiators too, because they held the one resource everyone wanted and couldn't replicate. The blood that turned war into a sport. If you want, I can make Chapter 6 the moment when one faction makes a move to kidnap the humans rather than buy them, and accidentally starts the first galaxy-wide war over 3 people. Would you like me to continue? Here's Chapter 6, where the galaxy stops talking and starts bleeding. Chapter 6, The Spark. The offers kept coming, but patience didn't. The first to break was the KRYTH Dominion, a secretive, insectoid race known for solving problems with precision strikes. Where other factions sent negotiators, the KRYTH sent assassins. They came at night. The attempt. The Fortress Medicae was running at half crew, many away escorting supply convoys. The night cycle lighting dimmed the halls to a dull blue. Keshrin was in the med bay when the alarms didn't sound, because the KRYTH had bypassed the station's sensors entirely. 6 black-clad infiltrators materialized inside the humans' quarters, cloaked in distortion fields. Mara was asleep. Rios was not. He woke to the faintest shift of air, rolled from his bunk, and tackled the nearest intruder before the distortion could fully drop. His fist hit chitin, and the alien's head snapped back with a wet crack. The other 5 dropped their cloaks and moved fast, too fast for most species, but the humans were already faster. Blood in the quarters. Imani vaulted from her bunk, snatching a dropped shock blade midair. She drove it into a KRYTH's abdomen, ripping upward until the alien split open in a spray of iridescent fluid. Mara rolled under a burst from a compact plasma rifle, came up behind the shooter, and used him as a shield until his own squad riddled him with fire. Rios broke another's neck, caught a second by the mandibles, and slammed his head into the bulkhead so hard the metal dented. When it was over, all 6 lay dead on the deck. The room stank of alien ichor. The message. Keshrin arrived seconds later, breathless, to find the carnage. "You're all right?" she asked. Mara wiped her hands on her shirt. "We're fine." Imani picked up a still-glowing plasma rifle, checked the charge, and tossed it to Rios. "We should return the favor." The retaliation. By the time security reported the KRYTH ship still loitering in the system, the humans were already aboard a stolen shuttle. They didn't wait for orders. The KRYTH expected boarding drones. They got Mara, Rios, and Imani. Mara led point, cutting through the ship's corridors like a blade. Rios followed with the plasma rifle, each shot blowing bodies apart at the joints. Imani hunted stragglers, leaving no survivors. In 13 minutes, the KRYTH ship was under human control. They didn't keep it. They vented the airlocks and sent it drifting toward the nearest star, the crew frozen in the void. The consequences. The next day, every major faction's intelligence network reported the same thing. 3 humans had slaughtered an elite KRYTH strike team and hijacked their flagship alone. The message was clear: if you tried to take them by force, you wouldn't just fail. You wouldn't live long enough to regret it. And yet, in the dark halls of every power in the galaxy, the same question burned hotter than fear. If 3 can do this, what would an army of them be capable of? If you want, I can make Chapter 7 the moment when one faction actually tries to mass-produce human warriors by harvesting their blood, and the horrifying results when the experiment succeeds, for a few minutes. Here's Chapter 7, where the galaxy makes the mistake of trying to copy humanity. Chapter 7, Blood Theft. The Shaltech Directorate had never been warriors. They conquered with numbers, drones, and genetic engineering, taking what worked from other species and building it into their own. They thought humans would be no different. The heist. It happened in transit. Fortress Medicae was relocating the humans to a classified system when a Shaltech fleet intercepted. They didn't open fire. They didn't even hail. Instead, a needle-thin boarding craft punched through the hull and deployed microdrones. By the time alarms screamed, the drones had already taken blood samples from all 3 humans, right in their sleep. The Shaltech retreated before a counterstrike could launch. Keshrin didn't sleep for 3 cycles after that. She knew exactly what the Shaltech were capable of. The experiment. In a sterile moon lab far from prying eyes, the Shaltech began. They infused volunteer soldiers, grown in incubation tanks, with human blood plasma, stimulating their systems with synthetic adrenaline. At first, it worked. Reflexes sharpened, muscle fibers reinforced, reaction times doubled. The test subjects became faster, stronger, hungrier. The break point. On the 3rd hour, it went wrong. The enhanced soldiers' heart rates spiked beyond measurable limits. Their skin flushed crimson, their eyes dilated until the whites vanished. Then they began attacking everything: guards, scientists, each other. Pain didn't stop them. Missing limbs didn't stop them. They tore through security like wild animals, breaking bones with bare hands, biting through armored neck joints. The lab was locked down, but by then, containment was a fantasy. The cleanup. Shaltech military forces were called in. They lost 2 battalions before they managed to incinerate the entire complex from orbit. Every scrap of research was destroyed. Every surviving officer who'd worked on the program was quietly executed, both to stop leaks and to erase the humiliation. The lesson. The Shaltech never admitted what they'd done, but word leaked. It always did. Mara read the report in silence, then pushed the datapad toward Keshrin. This is why you don't play God with something you don't understand. Rios leaned back in his chair, smirking. They thought they could copy us. Turns out, you can't download crazy. Imani cracked her knuckles. They got 3 hours. We've got it for life. The galaxy learned something new that day. Human blood wasn't just chemistry. It was a storm, and storms couldn't be bottled. If you want, I can make Chapter 8 the moment when the humans decide to stop reacting to attacks and start hunting down the factions that have been targeting them. That's where this turns from survival into a calculated offensive. Here's Chapter 8, where the humans stop waiting and start hunting. Chapter 8, the hunt begins. For weeks, they'd been targets. First the Vern, then the KRYTH, then the Shaltech. 3 attempts in less than a cycle, each one deadlier than the last. Mara Cade decided it was time to flip the script. The Council refusal. Keshrin argued against it in the Ashar High Council chambers. They've been reacting to threats. That's defensive survival instinct, not unprovoked aggression, she told the gathered leaders. And yet, Admiral Valor interrupted. If they take the fight to their enemies, they'll be ours. Imagine what they could accomplish under coordinated command. Mara didn't bother waiting for a vote. We're not under anyone's command. We'll do this our way. The target list. Rios compiled it from intercepted transmissions, black market whispers, and Keshrin's intelligence feeds. Every faction that had attempted to capture or kill them, plus the individuals who had funded, ordered, or profited from it. It wasn't a small list. At the top. 1. Vern Warlord Torvak Sun, architect of the initial assault on Vath Prime. 2. Kryth assassin Queen Vrish, mastermind of the Midnight Strike on Fortress Medakai. 3. Shaltech director HFY Enra, overseer of the failed blood harvesting project. First Blood. The humans started with Torvaxun. His fortress ship, Iron Maw, was a mobile citadel patrolling deep Vern space. It had battalions, shields, and enough firepower to level cities. The humans didn't attack head-on. They slipped aboard through the garbage jettison systems, emerging inside a waste processing bay armed only with scavenged tools. Within an hour, the fortress ship's internal comms were broadcasting nothing but the sounds of screaming soldiers and the pounding of boots echoing through its decks. Torvaxun never made it to the escape pods. Mara cornered him in his own war room, his bodyguards lying dead around him. "We could have left you alone," she said, leveling a stolen rifle at his chest, "but you didn't leave us alone." One shot, no last words. The message sent. The Iron Maw's wreckage was left to drift across Vern trade routes, its hull daubed in alien blood spelling out a single Terran word. Stop. From that day forward, the galaxy's hunters realized something terrible. Humans didn't just fight to survive. They fought to end the threat. And they wouldn't stop until the list was empty. If you want, I can make Chapter 9 the strike on the Kryth Assassin Queen's hidden palace, where the humans take on an entire hive fortress swarming with killers bred from birth. This would be their most dangerous close-quarters fight yet. Here's Chapter 9, where the humans walk into the deadliest nest in the galaxy. Chapter 9, The Hive of Knives. The Kryth Assassin Queen Vrish had never been seen in person. Her fortress was said to be buried in the heart of a living asteroid, a hollowed hive swarming with millions of her spawn. Every corridor a trap, every shadow a blade. That was where the humans were going next. The infiltration. They arrived in a stolen ore hauler, heat signatures masked to mimic civilian traffic. Kryth sentries scanned them and waved them through, assuming they were delivering raw asteroid feed. They weren't. The moment the docking clamps locked, Mara, Rios, and Imani slipped into the hive's labyrinthine tunnels. They didn't carry heavy weapons, noise here meant death. Instead, they moved like predators, silent, patient, lethal. The swarm. The first contact came in the form of two Kryth sentries clinging to the walls like spiders. Mara's knife opened one's throat before he even blinked. Rios grabbed the other, snapped his mandibles in half, and used the body as a shield from the acid spray traps lining the walls. As they descended deeper, the air grew hot and thick with pheromones, communication scents designed to confuse intruders. It didn't work. Humans navigated by instinct now, their bodies running on adrenaline-laced precision. Every few meters, another killer appeared, an ambush from above, a blade from below. Each one died silently. The throne chamber. They reached it after 2 hours of killing and crawling. Vrish sat upon a throne grown from chitin and bone, her body twice the size of any warrior, her 4 arms each gripping a different weapon, sword, claw, hook, and blaster. Around her, 24 elite assassins crouched in readiness. 3 prey, she hissed, 3 meals for my children. Imani stepped forward, rolling her shoulders. Lady, you've got it backward. This is our feeding ground now. The fight. It was chaos from the first step. The assassins struck from all angles, moving with impossible speed. But humans didn't just match it, they adapted to it mid-fight. Mara ducked under a scythe blade, slashing an attacker's leg tendons before pivoting into a throat stab. Rios caught a spear in mid-thrust, ripped it free, and impaled 2 assassins in one motion. Imani fought barehanded, breaking necks and using corpses as battering rams. When the last guard fell, Vrish moved. She was fast, faster than anything they'd faced, but the humans didn't flinch. They surrounded her, attacking from 3 sides. A hook tore through Rios' arm. He didn't stop swinging. A blaster burned across Mara's ribs. She pressed forward anyway. Imani leapt onto the queen's back, drove her knife through the base of her skull, and twisted until the hive fell silent. The aftermath. The humans left the hive the way they came, in silence, covered in alien blood. Behind them, Leaderless. The KRYTH tore themselves apart in civil war. 2 names were now crossed off the list. And the galaxy whispered a truth it didn't dare say aloud. If you were on the humans list, you were already dead. If you want, I can make Chapter 10 the assault on the Shaltech director, the most fortified target yet, where the humans have to fight through drones, automated turrets, and bioengineered warbeasts to end the last name on their hit list. Dr. Cyril's voice trembled now, her usual analytical tone replaced by something close to awe. Do you understand what you carry inside you? She asked, staring at John's arm as if it were a loaded plasma cannon. John flexed his fingers, still trying to shake the numbness. Blood, last I checked. Not blood, she whispered. Deterrent, the most potent biochemical weapon the galaxy has ever known. Behind her, the projection shifted to images of different alien physiologies, dozens of species with notes of catastrophic reactions. She pointed. Your hemoglobin, your iron-based oxygen transport, it is hyperreactive to countless alien biologies. A single drop, unfiltered, in the wrong circulatory system causes cascading molecular collapse. It is a universal poison. John raised an eyebrow. So what? You're saying I'm toxic? Cyril's gaze met his. Toxic? John, you are walking mutual assured destruction. If the wrong government realizes what you are, they won't see a soldier. They'll see a planet killer wearing boots. Outside, the station's sirens wailed, the enemy ships had found them. Cyril stepped back, her voice tight. I hope you never have to learn just how dangerous the substance in your veins really is. But John already suspected he was about to find out. Do you want me to continue straight into the battle where he's forced to weaponize it? The station shook, metal screaming under the first barrage. Cyril slammed a containment case into John's hands, a small, reinforced cylinder with a biohazard sigil burned into its side. What's this? John asked. A sample, she said quickly. Concentrated plasma, your plasma, triple filtered to survive in vacuum. If you release it into their life support systems, she trailed off, and her meaning was clear, the enemy crews would be dead in minutes. John stared at the case. You're asking me to commit mass murder. I'm asking you to survive, Cyril replied, eyes hard, and to save every soul on this station. The comms crackled, Captain Ryvek's voice booming. Human, get to docking arm 7. They've boarded. John moved, boots pounding against the deck. The station lights strobed red, and the corridor ahead split into chaos, armored invaders, insectoid warriors in matte black suits, their breathing apparatus hissing. They froze when they saw him. One of them spoke in its clicking, chittering tongue, the translation unit spitting out a phrase that made John's skin crawl. Contain the blood, do not let it spill. They already knew. John's hand tightened around the containment case. For the first time in his life, he realized the truth. He wasn't just a man. He was a weapon they feared more than their own extinction. Want me to push straight into the scene where John uses his blood as a weapon for the first time? The first shot grazed John's shoulder, and that was all it took. Blood welled up instantly, bright red against the cold steel deck. The invaders froze, eyes widening in primal terror. Their rebreathers hissed faster, almost panicked. One of them shouted, "Seal the wound, seal it," but it was too late. The droplet struck the floor and vaporized in the low-pressure corridor, releasing a microscopic mist. John didn't understand the science, didn't need to. He just saw the effect. The nearest warrior staggered, clutching at its chest. Its breathing grew ragged, skin beneath the armor blistering and turning a sickly violet. The others backed away, their formation breaking as survival instinct overtook orders. John's voice came out low, almost alien to his own ears. You came into my home, and now you've breathed me in. Cyril's voice crackled over his calm. Urgent. John, the air recyclers are pulling your plasma particles through the whole docking arm. Get out of there before it hits friendlies. John's legs carried him forward anyway. For the first time, the invaders weren't chasing him. They were running. Do you want me to continue right into the part where the enemy command ship sends a desperate surrender call?